What's good? What's good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Urban Platform Speaks. Um, Make sure to like and subscribe as you come into the channel and check out the content. And with that being said, man, I want to talk about recent reports that Caitlin Clark is basically day to day, right? When it comes to whether she'll be able to come back and play. So it's day to day. But now today is Monday. They have officially, ruled her out for Tuesday's game already. But even before this new news came up that Caitlin Clark may come back and play, I said over the weekend, I had a podcast on Saturday when I said, I was talking about like because of the injuries to Caitlin Clark, like two teammates, is there some pressure for Caitlin Clark to come back and to really to come back and to help the team out? Let me see. Sydney Colson, she's out, with a left ACL tear. Ari McDonald has a broken bone in her foot, and they set to miss the remainder of this season and may even miss, part of next season, right? And so, and before and Caitlin Clark had already said that, she's at every game, even the away games. A lot of times when players are, when they hurt, so, players don't even go to the away games, because they're not able to suit up and they're not able to play. So they usually don't go. They usually stay home in a hometown, just get treatment, and rest up and get better so they can get back on that court. But as a competitor, she wants, you could just tell by watching her on the sideline that she want to be out there as soon as possible, So I don't believe that some of the pressure is external, like I said, she's a competitor and she want to be out there. So some of the pressure is coming from her. But now I think the fact that two of her teammates are not there kind of ramps up the pressure, for her to come back because they don't want to fall too far behind in the playoff race. They had a 5 game winning streak. I think they had won like about, I think it was 8 out of 11 games, their last 8 out of 11 games before they got to the Sparks and the Sparks blew them out. But yesterday, I think over the weekend they did beat the Sky, Chicago Sky. And part of the reason I think that they won't play her tomorrow is because they'll be going up against the Wings. The Wings don't really have they don't have a good record. They're good. They're not as good as the Fever. So they probably think that they can beat the Wings, the Dallas Wings, without Caitlin Clark. So why rush her back to play the Dallas Wings? But like when they get into those tougher games, I think later on this week they go back, they play the Phoenix Mercury, right? And so when they play the Phoenix Mercury, I'm thinking that they will definitely she'll be more likely to play in that game against the Phoenix Mercury, because they want to not only do they want to stay within that playoff race, but they want to they want to work her back into the chemistry of the team, back into the rotation so they can get that chemistry and stuff together, and so but I do think that there's pressure, from Caitlin Clark, both from herself, the fans, the fans are antsy, the fans want to see her play. Everybody talk about how attendance is down, while Caitlin is not playing. So there's some pressure there. There's some pressure there. Even if the coach or her teammates are not saying anything to her, she knows where they stand, where the team stand as far as like their record. And she saw the success that they were having with those other young ladies. And that's another thing, right? They were having some success. Um, and so as a teammate, you want to be a part of that. You want to contribute. You don't want to, you don't want to get into the playoffs or when a team wins a championship ring and you on the bench, you be like, I wanted to contribute. I want to contribute to the success. more than just being a cheerleader, But I think with Caitlin Clark, on the sideline, cheering everybody on, rooting for her teammates, I thought that would, that showed good. That's good as a great makes her a great teammate. Supporting her teammates. Not really feeling jealous or threatened by her teammates, just really just supporting her, and talking to them, and letting them know like what she see on the court, and just helping and making herself a part of the team. That was good. So she's really, in my opinion, she's played her part, all the way around. She's doing the best she can do under the circumstances. And so you have to commend her for that. But I think that before this week is out, I think that Caitlin Clark will be back on the court. Because their schedule, while she was gone, like some of those games were easy games, they were gimme games, which they lucked out. But now coming down that playoff stretch, they're not going their schedule is going to get tougher. And so when the schedule get tougher, you want to be at full strength when you're going up against some of the better teams around the league, and your seeding in the playoffs is important because the higher your seed is, like it'll make your road more difficult if you have to go in and immediately, the first team you facing is the New York Liberty. You don't want to. That's not somewhere where you want to be. So you don't want to just back into the playoffs and get into the playoffs, you know, by the skin of your teeth. And then when you get there, you got to play out of your mind in order to beat, the one seed, whoever the one seed is, which most likely in the East is going to be the New York Liberty. So you don't want to be in that position. You want to be as high as you can, in the in the seedings. So, that'll give you more margin for error, and so it's just a lot of things, a lot of factors to take into consideration for Caitlin Clark, to come back. She will. I think even if the team, even if the Indiana Fever was like having if they was having a losing season, like if they weren't even in contention to be in the playoffs, I think with the way she is about basketball, I think she probably still would have wanted to be out there. So, and that's with, a lot of basketball players, like who wants to sit out, for a full season, even if you are, even if your team losing, as a competitor, she wants to help her team out. And so there's extra added pressure when you have, like I said, you had two of your teammates go down. You're thinking about like the schedule is going to get tougher. Then you have to consider the seeding. Um, you have to consider like the seeding because you don't want to fall too far behind. And then, you just like I said, you just back into the playoffs. So all of that stuff is something that needs to be taken into consideration. And I think all of this stuff is really weighing on her decision, to probably want to hurry back. And hopefully her groin injury is not something, it'll be healed. It's something that, she won't be putting herself at further risk by coming back, whenever they do decide to put her back in it. Like if she come back this week, hopefully it's a situation where it's, she's rested enough and she can help the team. But I think, and I'm hearing people said that, she's practiced already with the team. So if she's to the point where she can practice, at least practice with the team, then it won't be too much longer where look, Caitlin Clark will be able to come back and help her team. And so, but and so, but and I think with like you got Sophie Cunningham, and what's the other young lady who came in there and just I think she did a pretty good job too. Sophie Cunningham and oh my goodness, the other girl who came in there. I thought she did a pretty good job, you know, but they do really need Caitlin Clark to be in there. And so yeah, like I said, she's feeling that pressure. I think by the end of this week, Caitlin Clark will probably be in there. And I can't believe I'm drawing a blank on this other young lady because she played, and people was upset because she wasn't getting no time. Not Sophie Cunningham. What's the other young lady play? Because she did pretty good against the Sky. Damn. All right, man. That's a shame. I'm drawing a blank on this young lady's name. But anyway, that's my take on it. I do think there's, you know, there's internal and external pressure for Caitlin Clark to come back and help this team stay and you know, get a higher seed so they can, you know, have an easier road through the playoffs. Um, so that's my take on it. Make sure to like and subscribe. And with that being said, don't forget to leave a comment, and I will check you all out in the next video. Peace.